The George Floyd killing was unlike any event that preceded it involving racial violence. The reason for that, in my view, is because people got to see murder being committed in real time with a man being killed while he's begging for his mama. And I find it absolutely amazing that a common man could move the needle on race relations more than a man who has his own holiday and Nobel Peace Prize. King was merely shot. This man was crucified.
It's hard enough as adults to comprehend these issues. How can we even begin to explain them to children? Most times we make sense of our world, our history, through the telling of stories. And Miami has scores of stories to tell. We tell the story of Overtown, destroyed by the building of I-95 and the 50,000 people displaced there in the late 1960s. We tell the story of the McDuffie riots in 1980, where Liberty City fought back and uprose against the problem of police brutality. We tell the story of gentrification in neighborhoods like Wynwood and Coconut Grove in present-day Liberty City. Gentrification is in some ways an extension of Jim Crow's violence. The police have to oftentimes ramp up their patrols in gentrifying neighborhoods. The evictions that ensue can cause family separations, and oftentimes elders can lose their lives without the appropriate family support. This story of Miami is really a story of still the environment being of great danger to its black residents. But it's also important to tell the history of fight back, and that again brings us back to Virginia Key Beach. You'll recall, Virginia Key Beach was closed in 1982 and had fallen into disrepair. That stretch of seaside was then eyed by developers to be turned into a seaside resort, an eco camp, and an RV park focused on high-end environmental experiences at a cost of $250 a night. Local scholars, activists, environmentalists, and elderly all banded together to preserve the Key and its historical value. Greg Bush was at the Miami City Council meeting in '99 and said,
"It should be preserved as a civil rights speech because it was important to the civil rights movement and the African American community." Then I called Enid, I called Gene Tinney, and several others to try to alert them to what was going on.
The history of Virginia Key Beach, it was Dr. Gregory Bush who called it to my attention that the city of Miami had planned to develop some eco camp because the city needed money, and they were going to turn Virginia Key Beach into this resort. Now, the black people did not know anything about that.
When Greg Bush reached out to me, I reached out to Mrs. M. Athley Raines, our beloved community matriarch. She said, "Well, let me sleep on this and I'll let you know." The next morning, I got a call. "Gene, I think I've got one good fight left in me." "Yes, okay, we got this."
In 1999, a diverse group of citizens rallied together to form the Virginia Key Beach Park Civil Rights Task Force. They really crafted a brilliant argument to try to save the Key from redevelopment. It had three components. The first was to use history as a way of making an argument that the Jim Crow history of Virginia Key Beach was valuable for the long-term understanding and future of multicultural Miami. They also used history to use state historic preservation guidelines to prevent developers from using the site. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, they brought people to the fight who had experienced Jim Crow life in Miami firsthand. They were able to share their experiences at city council meetings and really give flesh to the understanding of Jim Crow that many had stopped appreciating. Mrs. Atherley Range was among those elders who helped to shape the argument.
Who better to kind of be the most forward face, if you will, than she, because she not only had the courage to speak truth to power fearlessly, but she was very astute in, shall we say, the strategy of how to do that.
She came to lead the Civil Rights Task Force, and really, she was a walking embodiment of Black Miami's history. She began her work life as a domestic, working in white women's homes. She then went on to establish her own funeral parlor and eventually establish her own bank for Black Miamians to enjoy. She went on even further to a political career in Black Miami, becoming the first Black city commissioner and eventually a presidential appointee under President Jimmy Carter, being appointed to the board of Amtrak. Her presence helped to give gravity to the argument that Jim Crow's history was really Miami's history. Mrs. Range was interviewed in 2002 when the park was still closed.
There are groups who are working to take over Virginia Key Beach, but we're working a little harder. And in a few years, you're going to be able to go to Virginia Key Beach and really enjoy yourself.
And she was right. Their hard work paid off. As captured in this photo from 2008, the park reopened after being closed for nearly 30 years.
I had the honor of having the great big scissors, and we cut the ribbon, and that was, and the park was open. We literally had to close the gate and say, we can't get any more people in. Several people had just tears of joy, you know, and they were just sharing their emotions.
It's important to preserve the history of Virginia Key Beach because there was a time in Miami, everybody needs to know this, there was a time in Miami that there was no place where Black people could go to a beach. People could come here from all over the world and go to a beach, but people born here in Miami couldn't go to a beach.
This is why I could say to young people, you can't give up. I tell people young people, I'm proud of them. While I can't get out there and march with you, I'm behind you because I know the cause is good.
Now that the young people see what's going on, some of them are going to get involved in politics. And I think it's going to bring a different light.
Really the most important thing, anybody who is concerned about moving towards more amicable relations with the races in our country, they need to vote.
Find the cause and work with the cause.
Our elders fought hard and won to make a difference. Back in 1945, it was an intergenerational group of activists who helped establish Virginia Key Beach in the first place. They organized a wait-in, they brought their tax receipts, and they found a way to lean on Jim Crow system to get the benefits to which they were entitled. In the mid-1990s, again, young and old worked together. They fought for the benefits of public land and found a way to use history in order to preserve a very important piece, really a treasure, of our shared Miami past. Now, in 2020, we're faced yet again with new challenges as folks are in the streets demanding their civil rights and asking what benefits are they entitled to. Well, there are very concrete things that we can do in learning from our forebears at Virginia Key Beach. We can fight for the benefits of public land, for example. It's important to have a foundation from which to organize our political future. We can also demand our rights as citizens. It was critical then and now to understand that we are entitled to equality and that we've already paid for that equality in our taxes. It's important, too, to honor our history. Sit down with your elders, record what they teach you, and act on it. A politically informed, historical imagination is going to be key to whatever we do going forward. The bottom line is, it now falls to us, really to you, to act on what you've learned and to act on this history. So when are you going to get started?